What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. I hope y'all are having a great week, but per usual, it is about to get so much better. We're having a great day here in Louisiana because our guest is not virtual this week. We actually have Aodha King for the second time on the Well It's Good podcast, but the first time in person, so welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's good. I love it.
I know.
Being here in the flesh is good.
You know, it really is good. And you said something today I was totally shocked by when, some people come to West Monroe and then they're like, wow, it's so small. I can't believe how small it is. But you have been so complimentary to where we live. And you also said it reminds you of Australia.
It 100% does. I'm loving it. I mean, I was here, last time I was here for conference last year, which was awesome, but conference time's busy. So
yeah, it's not the same. You don't get to see everything.
No. So we got in last night and it's insane. It feels like Australia. It's like all the bugs in the air. Oh yeah. The sound of like creatures humming. The air. I don't know. It's good. I love it.
To some people listening, the sound of creatures humming might seem scary to you, but it's actually something about it soothing.
Oh, it's like there's no silence, but in a good way.
Yes.
Like last night we looked at the stars, which you can see here, which I can't see in LA. And it's just like this little hum in the background of like, what are they, cicadas?
I don't actually know what they are, and I don't want to know what they are because I like the sound probably more than I like the look.
Yeah, I don't want to see the look. But then this morning, like they're like a rooster or something. That was my alarm clock. Yeah,
because y'all are out at the farm, and the rooster legitimately will wake you up.
It was great. I loved it.
It's country living.
Yeah, country living.
The other thing you said today that I was shocked by is that I remind you of an Australian, which was one of the greatest compliments I think ever because I don't know. I mean, maybe Australians think Americans are cool, but Americans definitely think Australians are cool.
Australians think Americans cool.
And that was like equivalent to saying that like, I'm a surfer girl or something. I'm that cool. Wow. But you meant by that Australians are kind of like
lay back, chill, easy. And you're like, I feel like if you lived in Australia, you'd surf.
I will receive that. And I think I will do that. I'm a little bit scared of the shark situation, but if I can get past that,
I know. There's a lot of sharks at the moment.
Yeah, there are everywhere.
I know. I don't know whether it's like social media that's showing me sharks all the time, but I'm seeing them every day.
Yeah, it feels different. So I don't know. I'll ponder the surfing thing.
Yeah.
But you have a new album coming out, which we're going to talk about. And I'm so excited for you. And I got to hear the new single, which now everyone's gotten to hear the new single. And if you haven't heard it, what you doing? Get out your phone and go hear the new single. But tell me about the album and just this new project you've been working on.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm working on a worship record. It's my first ever on my own. So the album is going to be called, well, actually, I don't know if I'm going to say it right now.
Ooh,
maybe not.
A mystery.
It's a mystery.
I appreciate it.
But it's been like a long time coming. So obviously I've been part of Hillsong and Young and Free for ages. And I moved to America 3 years ago. I came here to kind of just start working on my own thing. I started in like writing like a pop record, which was really cool.
You started this album working? It was going to be? Wow.
Yeah. So, I thought my first album on my own would be like kind of like a pop album. So I moved to America to do that. I was kind of like all geared up to do that. I'd finished the album. And I remember like I was driving one night and I was just praying. And I was like, God, like what am I meant to do? Like the album was finished. Everything felt right. But there was still something, like all the practical things felt right. The album was done. The songs were done. I had written things that I felt proud of, but I remember being like, I don't feel like a peace about it completely, which was confusing to me because practically it was all great. And I remember just praying like, God, like, what am I meant to do? Like, and I remember in that moment, like, it was almost as if like, I don't hear the voice of God audibly it's so rare, maybe once in my life. But I remember this moment, I was like, it almost felt like I had, and it was like, God kind of just saying like, don't forget about me in this process. And for me at that time, it wasn't that I had forgotten about him, but it was almost like I'd forgotten that the gifts and things that I feel like God's given me, like I wasn't ready to fully use them for him at that time. Wow. That made sense. Yeah. And so I was like, okay. And I went to London. I remember like right after that. And sorry, it's a long story, but anyways, I was in London.
First of all, that's the beauty of a podcast.
I know.
We're supposed to tell long stories because everyone actually wants to hear the heart behind. Yeah. Like someone's going to see you announce this album and they come to the podcast to actually hear why you did it in the first place. So tell the long story.
So I remember I'm in London and this was a couple of days after that prayer, which I was like, it felt like a shattering kind of moment when I had that moment in the car because it was almost like I'd spent 2.5 years working on this pop record. I'd moved countries. I had like changed a lot of things in my life. I'd started working with new people that I hadn't worked with before. And it was really exciting. But when I had this moment of clarity from God in the car, it was almost like, oh my gosh, this is a pivot, a huge pivot from all the things that felt exciting. And so I go to London on the back of that. And the trip was just like a vacation. And I remember praying or whatever. And I went and met up with a friend, one of my good friends. His name's Josh Grimmett. And he's an amazing songwriter. And we met up one day, had coffee, and then we went to the studio and we wrote this song. I remember like the first lines that were coming out of us was like made to worship. And it was this like reminder again of like, oh, that's what I was made to do. I was made to worship God. And that song, I guess, was the catalyst for this record, which is, a worship album. And it's like, you know, from that moment too, I was like, how do I make this feel like, I've done corporate worship for so long with Hillsong and with Young and Free, and I really wanted the project to be, I guess, different to the things I've done, like same in the heart, but I wanted it to feel like new. And I remember on that trip as well, I had met with another friend who's an amazing artist, not a worship artist, not in the Christian space, but loves God. And we were talking, and I remember him saying like, you know, I would love to have the ability to like write a worship song or sing a worship song. And I was like, it's strange that like people can sometimes feel like they can't do that. Like they've boxed their identity or who they are is boxed by what they do. And that kind of started the journey on this record where, you know, I've been able to invite a lot of people that have never sung, you know, worship songs publicly before. Like, and, you know, they may be known for other things, for being an artist in different spaces, but I wanted this project to be this place where like, hey, everyone can come and sing worship. Like that's what we were designed to do or made to do. That's so cool. Yeah. And so it's eclectic, but it's cool.
That is so cool. Yeah. I have so many questions.
Okay.
So when you decided like, okay, I'm moving countries, I'm doing my own thing, I'm writing an album, do you feel like in the same way that people feel like they can't write a worship song because their identity is wrapped up in maybe pop or whatever their thing is, do you feel like you were feeling the same strain of like my identity is wrapped up in like I'm a worship leader for this church and I want to establish like who I am now outside of that? So it's like the same wrestle but the opposite. Yeah. But yet you're called back to the identity of being a worship leader because it's more than music. It's a part of who you are. Like, were you feeling the need to rebel from that identity crisis as well?
Yeah. I mean, that's really interesting that you point that out because I actually haven't thought about that, but that is actually so real. Like, that's 100% the reason. Like, that's wild. Wow. You pinpointed something that feels real.
It's interesting because I don't know, as you were saying that about other people feeling like they don't have the freedom to do worship because they're in a box, I feel like it would make sense naturally for you to feel that in the opposite sense. However, it's not a box for you, it's an identity.
Completely,
So it's not something that you have to rebel against. It's something you actually need to run to, but I can see how it could also present itself in the same way as like a box.
Completely, yeah. Like for sure, there was part of me that wanted to rebel. You know, I'd done everything that I'd done creatively, musically, I had done under like, you know, in the confines of church, which I've loved and which is awesome. But I always was like, what else could I do? And I think that was me rebelling. Like, all right, I've done that. That's awesome. I want to do that for the rest of my life. But is there something else I can do? And I still feel like there is, and I still want to do that. I still want to put out songs that aren't worship songs. Like I look forward to doing that. But I think, you know, over the journey of coming to America, being there by myself, you know, it's the first time I've moved cross country away from family at the end of COVID. So there was a lot of things. And I remember like just being like, okay, cool. It's a cool idea to do this, Aiden, but like there is like, I just felt like that season of my life, like I was more aware of God than ever before. Like, especially when you're by yourself and you're trusting and going out in faith. Like I was like, wait, hold on. Actually, the right place to start this for me is where I've always been, what I've always known, what feels like what I was designed to do.
Yeah. That's so cool. So the timing of it, you worked on something for 2.5 years that all of a sudden God was like, hey, don't forget about me, which when you say that, it's like, wow, that's so cool. But actually, like that would be so hard to work for something for 2.5 years and then be like, okay, not going to use that. Like, we're pivoting.
Yeah.
Did you feel that like stress of the hustle of just time of like people saying that you got to put something out?
Yeah.
This is so good. Why won't you do this? Like, did you come up against those things, or were you just like, it is what it is?
Completely. Yeah. That was like, for me, that was the hardest part, I think, because it was all my friends had been on a journey with me. Everyone I knew, like, I'd been talking about putting out music for so long. It's been like 5 years of this conversation.
I actually even remember that just from Steph hearing about you're going to do this album. And I remember that so clearly. So that's funny.
Know. Yeah, that was difficult because it felt strange to me. Like all these people had been with, even the people I'd worked with on that record.
Yeah. See, that's the hard thing.
It's so hard because it's not just me. It involves so many people. And like, I don't know. I mean, if I didn't think it was from God, I wouldn't have made such a radical change or decision or pivot. Yeah. Like, I just don't, I don't have that in me because I'm such a people pleaser. Like, I want to just make everyone happy. Yeah. Like, I want everyone to be good. So for me to like do that it felt radical. Like, it was pretty, But I'm grateful now. I mean, it all makes sense and I'm really excited and I'm looking forward to whatever this next season is.
Yeah. We've been talking a lot about, I have a new book coming out called The Next Step, and it's kind of from the verse, like, your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path, and how whenever the Bible talks about that, you think about, like, you want the whole path to be lit up, but that's actually really not how life is. If you, like, see the oil lamps that they have in the Bible days, they're tiny, like, literally tiny. Mm-hmm. It would just actually light up your next step. And so that's kind of one of those moments where it's like, okay, God, like, you gave me the clearest next step. Mm-hmm. I don't see the end of this path right now, but I see so clearly where I'm supposed to go. And you just got to trust that as you step with confidence, it'll lead to the right thing. And it's really cool to see that, like, now you're like, well, now it makes so much sense.
Oh, yeah.
But it didn't that day in the car when you thought about probably all the phone calls you have to make, all the people you got to tell, even just like the pride of being like, all right, I'm pivoting. And like, it's okay if people misunderstand that. It's okay if people think it failed or people think it wasn't, whatever people think is okay, because this is what God so clearly said.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, that was what I was resting on. Like, I was resting on the fact, like, okay, it's God. Because I mean, it almost made me feel like, oh wow, was the last 2.5 years a waste? Like, did I waste so much time? And I think, as a guy, I mean, I'm 31 now. Like, I think for anyone, you put all these weird timelines on your life. Like, oh, I should be at this place by the time I'm 30 or, for anyone listening, like, I think we all do that. Like, and I think that was a moment for me to reassess, like, why was I putting all these pressures on me? Like, I want to be at this place at 32 or whatever. And, even personally, that kind of let me like step back and go, okay, like, why do I have these things? Yeah. These constructs, like, why do I have these ideas of it needs to look like this? And it's kind of set me it set me straight on this path of like trusting God more than ever.
That's cool.
So yeah.
That's cool. Okay. So you said you have all these friends come on the podcast who typically aren't known for singing worship music, but are getting to sing these worship songs with you. How did that happen? Was it like based out of friendships that you had? Was it like people God just put on your heart that you asked? How did you start asking those different people?
Well, all of it came so naturally. So it was all friendships. The first song, which is out now, Thank You So Much, Jesus, with Paul Klein. He's one of my good friends. Like, way back in the day, I remember, like, I had heard about him. This is before he'd started the band Lany, which a lot of people may know. It was like the love songs of the summer, like 2013,
of course,
14.
Yes.
And I had met him probably just before he started Lany. And I remember I'd flown from Sydney to LA and everyone was like, hey, there's this guy. He's amazing. I think he was kind of going to our church at that time. And I was like, maybe this guy could like be in Young and Free. I remember thinking that. And so I went over and met him. We wrote some songs together. At the time, they were worship songs. And it was really cool. But then like a couple months later, he started Lany. That kind of blew up. His life went on a different trajectory. But we've stayed friends over the years and, we've always like supported each other. And he's always said to me like, oh man, it'd be so cool to like write a worship song. It'd be so cool. And at my birthday, my 30th, a couple of years ago, well, a year and a half ago, we were talking and he's like, man, I would love to like, my birthday's on Christmas Day. So I think we had my birthday like the beginning of January. Anyways, he's like, I was like, what are you hoping for this year? And he's like, I would love to like write a worship song. I was like, okay. He's like, yeah, I've just always wanted to do that. I'm like, well, let's just do it. And at this point I was making a worship record, but I didn't really think of it like that. So we went into the studio and we wrote with my good friend Ben Tan, and we wrote the song. And I didn't know where it was going to live or what it was going to be. We've written a lot together over the years, some stuff for his albums and whatnot, but we wrote the song and it was awesome. I remember we were just talking about like what we were grateful for and whatnot. We wrote the song and I remember like going home, and that night I get a text from him and he's like, bro, this song is like everything's like, my mom and dad are going to be so proud because they've been praying for this, right?
That's awesome.
And I was like, that's so cool. And then the next morning he sends me like a link, which is so funny. He sends me like a Zoom link. He's like, can you jump on this right now? I'm like, okay. And I was driving and I'm like, I pulled over and I'm like, opened it up, and he's like, it opens up on my phone, like it's a Zoom link. And he's like sitting there like on a table, and he's got like his manager next to him. He goes, bro, this might sound weird, but I need to sing that song with you. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm like,
wow.
And he's like, he's like, I know that sounds weird. He's like, is that okay? I'm like, bro, absolutely. I'm like, of course you can. I was like, I mean, I'm honored that you would ask. I'm like, okay. And that was the first kind of thing like that. And then that kind of happened over and over again. So with the people involved, it was like out of conversation, like, hey, I'm working on a worship record. Like, do you want to write? Because all these people that I worked with are amazing songwriters. They just haven't always used their gift in that way. And they wanted to. So it just happened like that. Relationships. And it's been really cool.
Y'all, I have been loving cooking lately. Ever since we went to Italy, we took this pasta class, and my pasta game has been fire, and I have loved cooking with my Caraway cookware for a long time, but especially this summer. It's been so much fun. I love that my Caraway cookware comes in all kinds of fun, modern shapes that work with any kitchen, and who knew cookware could be so cute and actually make cooking even more fun. Caraway's non-toxic products feature a chemical-free ceramic coating that won't leach chemicals into the food that I cook, like PFAS or PFOA or any other impossible to pronounce ingredient. And the ceramic is naturally slick, so I can reduce my oil and butter intake, but still have slide off the pan eggs and easiest cleanup. And truly, they are not kidding when they say that. It is the easiest cleanup, and you do not need a lot of butter or oil, which is amazing. The first time I cooked with it, I was so surprised. I was like, wow, it actually is slick, because sometimes people promise that, but it's not true. But Caraway, they really deliver. Over 65,000 five-star reviews say I am not the only one who loves Caraway home cookware. Caraway makes cooking easier. It's more fun, more stylish. So whether you're making your first new recipe or a classic that you pretty much got memorized, Caraway has got you covered. I love my Caraway products. I chose the black ones. They look so good in the kitchen. Sometimes I just want to leave it on the stove because it just looks good. But like I said, I've been cooking pasta and just kind of like one pot pastas in it, which has been really nice because, you know, I can put the chicken in it, throw it all in there, and it doesn't stick. It actually cooks perfectly. And so just as a reminder, their internet famous cookware set comes with a saute pan, fry pan, Dutch oven, and saucepan. Plus lids are for all of them, a canvas lid holder, and a magnetic pan rack for storage. And I have to say, whenever I got my stuff in, I was so impressed by all the things that came with it. I mean, not only do they provide just amazing pots and stuff like that, but also even like holders so that it looks nice in your kitchen and it's just very organized. So it's top notch. It really is amazing. It's the ultimate kitchen setup and will save you $150 by buying it that way versus buying all the items individually. Plus, if you visit carawayhome.com/Sadie, you can take an additional 10% off your next purchase. This deal is exclusive for our listeners, so visit carawayhome.com/Sadie or use code Sadie at checkout. And don't forget to mention that you heard about Caraway from us in their post-purchase survey. Caraway non-toxic cookware made modern. That's Caraway non-toxic cookware made modern. That is so cool. Well, the song is so amazing. And the first time I heard it, me and Christian were in the car. I was like, oh, I have chills. This is so cool because someone like Paul Klein, who, you know, I know him from Lany and follow on Instagram, like he is definition of like cool, you know, you both cool. are like, y'all both just have like the swag so about you. Your outfits are cool. Y'all carry like a really coolness about y'all, a little edgy, you know? And so to hear like two guys like that just like overflow like their hearts literally overflow of like gratitude to Jesus and like love for Jesus. It was so amazing. Like it's so beautiful. It's so powerful.
Thank you, yeah.
And it shows people that like you can actually be really cool and like fully love God.
Oh,
and
completely.
Like,
yeah. I think it's the coolest thing you can do.
It really is. I mean, it 100% is. And I
Yeah.
don't know how that got mixed up for it to not be.
Totally.
But to kind of take it back to that, like you can be, because that's like this, if you're created original and wonderful and beautiful and unique and different than everybody else, and you should look like that, but fully in the context of actually what you were created for. And you can do that fully loving God and loving people. And so I just love it. It's so good. You know, I think it's really cool because when I think about your life, like you have so many strong friendships with like well-known people. And that's not something that like you sought out for necessarily. It's just, you just are friends with a lot of people.
Yeah.
People are gravitated to you. I hear people say things like, me and Steph talk about this. Like if the word we hate the most is like networking, like people trying to network people because you feel it. You're like, that feels weird. Yeah. And so like to love people without an agenda attached to it is like such a gift that you can give anyone in life, you know? And I don't think you just have to be in like the LA world, the Nashville world to like face that. I think that's just like on a day-to-day high school, you feel that of like who's who and how you're going to be friends with them and how it benefits you and all those different things. Like, can you speak to just that a little bit about just like friendships in general and pursuing them and how you cultivate such great relationships with not just well-known people, but everybody? Like, how do you go about friendships?
I mean, it's a great question. I mean, I'm so grateful for my friends. Like I could not be sitting here with you, like, without friendship. Like the reason I'm here is because like our relationships have brought us here, but, and also like even being in America. I don't know if I have any like, I don't think my wisdom around it is more just like be the friend that like you would want in your life. And like, I don't think I always get that right. Yeah. I think I probably get it wrong all the time. I think, you know, I don't reply to text sometimes. I'm pretty bad. In fact, right now I have a text that I didn't reply to and it's not good because anyways, doesn't matter, but it's fine.
Hey,
but
I feel you on that. I feel you on that. There's grace for that.
Yeah. But I mean, I think, you know, when it comes to like anyone in any sphere of life, I think people just genuinely want like honest relationships where you can talk about the things that matter and with no judgment and like, you know, support. I think for me, I don't know. I think this kind of sounds strange or selfish in some ways. It's like, what would I love from a friend? Yep. And for me, like, I know like support is a huge thing. I have like problems with like overthinking. I'm a perfectionist. And so like, I know that I would love like encouragement. I know that I love those things. And so I've just always tried to be those things. Yep. Because it's the only way I know how. But that's good. Yeah, I don't know. I love people. So good. I love hanging.
Well, I think it comes from a genuine love for people, and you feel that when you really like love someone and have their best interests at heart and support them, it's felt from both ends. You know, it's like, and you also know when it doesn't feel like that. And so I think having a genuine love for people and doing relationships, it's so beautiful when it goes both ways. And that's when you get those moments where it's like, oh, you're doing a song with Paul Klein, and he's asking you like, can we do this together? Because that's out of a friendship. It's not something you even had to like ask a favor for. It's like, we wrote this together. It makes sense to do this together. Like there's nothing awkward about it because there's a genuine love and friendship there. Completely. And I think like people need to think like that, not just in the context of like a celebrity, but just like I said, in high school, on college campuses. Like it doesn't matter who is who. Like everybody wants to be known and everyone wants to be loved, and everyone wants to be loved for the fact that they're fully known as who they are without anything added to it, you know? Yeah. And so I love that. And I think that this album, and I haven't heard the album, so I'm speaking before I've heard it. I know it's going to be amazing, period.
I'll send it to you tonight.
Yes. Okay, I'm so excited. But like, it's a testament to your friendships. It's a testament to who you are and out of relationships, what beautiful things can come from other people's perspective, doing life with other people. Yeah. To the point of your songs and albums and stuff. Yeah. You know, Christian and I are huge fans of all your songs. We love them. We were literally talking today at breakfast, like, you have to help yourself to not like hum the songs that you sing around you because they're so in our head already. We listen to them all the time. Yeah. But it was so cool because we were talking about that and you said, I wouldn't even if you did start straight up like humming one of my songs, like, I wouldn't feel awkward about that because after you release those songs, especially worship, you don't feel attached to them. in that way. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I thought that was so interesting and so cool.
Yeah, I think being in a church community, like, you know, growing up at Hillsong and all that, like the songs that we would write were there as tools for church. You know, like we needed new songs to sing on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And they were literally like, I guess, and it was like us stewarding a gift that we felt God gave to us. Then us releasing it to the church. And then at that point, what the church does with the song, and what the song becomes for people is not really on me, it's on God. And that kind of taught me, and I think all of us, like, hey, like, don't be precious about songs. So if the song gets used, amazing. If it doesn't, like, be open-handed. And in that process, I think it's made me go, these songs don't really belong to me. They belong to God, and they belong to the church. That's cool. So I was saying to you this morning, like, I've been in church services before, and I've heard like the worship leader start singing a song that I wrote, and it takes me a while to even register. Like I spent hours writing that song, months stressing over it, but then I'm hearing it and I forget that it's me because I've just disassociated. You're just worshiping. Exactly, disassociated. That's so cool. Yeah.
Do you feel that stress free with this album being your like solo album?
I do in some ways. I feel like. Yeah, I mean, I feel a little like nervous. Because every time I've done anything, it's been in a group. And so there's like a beauty in that because every win that you have, you celebrate together, and every loss, it's together. And so, you know, you're never feeling everything. You're never feeling every emotion on your own. I think when you're doing your own thing, you can be like, it kind of does. Like, you know, like one of the texts I didn't reply to was like approval for a photo that's going to go on YouTube today.
Yeah.
And I forgot to do it, and now they're going to have to do the wrong image. So like things like that. So like that is on me completely. I'm only laughing
because I do that kind of stuff. So I'm like, okay, I like feel Steph looking at me right now across the room. Looking, I know I'm outing that Steph's in the room right now, but I feel her looking at me because that is me too. It happens. But yes, you feel. Yeah, it's a team still, but you're the one. It's got to be you. You can't hide behind the shadow of someone else.
No. Yeah. So but I'm excited, and I feel like. I hope that I feel those same feelings. Like when it's out, I can be like, okay, cool. That's it.
Well, I think like it's so cool because it's still worship. So you do feel that. Like,
yes, completely.
For me, like if I get asked to like speak places, but mostly it's like to preach a sermon. And that I feel super confident in because I love the word of God. I can talk about the word of God all day long. And I'm going to prepare like crazy for it because that's just what I do. But even if I didn't, I could get up there and preach the gospel and be confident and whatever happened because God used it and it's his word and it's on his spirit to do the action. If someone asked me to like go up and talk about like business or something, or I would be like, no. Like, how would I talk about something else for 30 minutes? Like, I wouldn't feel comfortable if someone was like, even like how you run LO. Even I that would be hard for me to talk about, you know, because it would be so singled out on me and like what I've done, and I would feel a bit awkward about it. But if you're talking about God, it's like, oh, it's so easy, and it's so because it's actually still not on you. It's all about him, even if it's your gifting in him, you know, given by him. And all of it really is, obviously, even if I talk about business, it could be him. But I've had some places that have asked me to come that have been more corporate-y, and they're like, hey, you can't talk about your faith. Or even like sororities I've spoken at that say, hey, you can't talk about your faith. Yeah. And I go, well, what? I don't really know what I'm going to talk about then, because that is who I am, you know, but it lets you just kind of relax in that. But I do relate to what you're saying though, because I remember, you know, growing up on Duck Dynasty, I was with my family. It was always like my family. It's the Robertson family, and I'm just a part of the Robertson family. And then when I got asked to do Dancing with the Stars, it was like the first time that it was like me, not my whole family. And they were there and they were supporting me, but like I'm the one doing the dance, you know? Yeah.
I loved it, by the way.
I mean,
Steph has showed me all the videos.
I've so heard good. This. That is just, that's something. Okay. But it's great. I think like that was such a cool experience for me, and it scared the mess out of me. I was definitely really nervous about that because it was the first time I was just kind of like, here I am. We're all outside of just who my family is. But it helped shape me in so many ways. Like, I mean, I look back at the time of my life and it was so essential, you know, so essential. And it led me to what I'm doing now in a weird, cool way. I mean, I'm obviously not dancing, but it shaped me. And so I feel like it's really cool that you're getting to like show the world like who you are and outside of like just a part of something, like this is who you are. And I think it's so cool that it's still worship. Like I think that is so cool because that is who you are.
How did you do that? Like how did you transition from being like, okay, I'm a part of a family, which you still are. You didn't transition out of that, but you still are. But then how did you find your own kind of thing at that time?
Fam, keeping up with our hydration needs is important for everyone, not just athletes and gym goers. So whether you're recovering from an illness, sweating it out in your garden, or an outdoor event, restoring electrolytes is essential for anyone who wants to feel their best. An Element is the perfect solution for all your electrolyte needs. It's a zero sugar electrolyte drink mix with everything your body needs and nothing it doesn't. Every stick pack of Element contains a serious dose of electrolytes, but no sugar, artificial colors, or questionable ingredients like the other brands have. Plus, it's formulated to work for anyone, even people who live the keto, low carb, or paleo lifestyle, so everybody wins. When we sweat, we lose valuable electrolytes like sodium, and if we don't replace them, we suffer from things like headaches, muscle cramps, fatigue, and even sleeplessness. Element is used by everyone from professional and Olympic athletes to U.S. Special Forces teams and workout gurus to people just like me and you wanting to feel good in our everyday life. And now there's a new way to enjoy Element with Element Sparkling. It delivers the same zero sugar electrolyte formula you trust, but in a 16-ounce can of sparkling water. It's a whole new option to support your health without sugar or stimulant-loaded drinks. We love Element Sparkling. I have one right here, which is kind of surprising because Christian always steals these from my office. He loves to come up here and get an Element, which I'm like, just get a pack at our house. Don't just keep them at our office. But he loves them. Even if they are at our house, he goes through them so fast because it's so nice to have a carbonated drink that actually makes you feel hydrated after you drink it. You know, I love carbonated drinks. Sometimes you just crave a little carbonation. And so to have something that's actually good for you and loves you back is great. And we love Element. I personally still love the packets as well. I like the watermelon one, the raspberry one, and the same flavors in the sparkling as well. So right now, Element is offering a free sample pack with any purchase. That's 8 single serving packets free with any purchase. Be sure to try the new Element Sparkling, a bold 16-ounce can of sparkling electrolyte water, and claim your free sample pack today. Visit drinkelement.com/whoa. Again, that's drinkelement, DRINKLMNT.com/whoa. That's a great question. I think that, you know, when I think about doing Dancing with the Stars, I wasn't seeking that out at the time because I was too nervous. I would have been too afraid to. Like, as far as like where you're at, where you're like, I'm ready to make the move. I'm ready to move countries. I'm ready to write the album. That time of my life was actually not that time for me where I felt ready. And that's why I feel like it didn't change me until later, because that was the time and opportunity given to me that I was able to kind of step outside my family, but I wasn't ready to embrace it yet. And so it was about a year after that where honestly I felt really lost in the fact that people know who I am now, but I still haven't really shown them who I am because I was too afraid to and insecure to. And I'm not just Willie Robertson's daughter. Yeah. And I'm not just the girl who was on Dancing with the Stars because I didn't even fully show that yet. Yeah. And so I was really wrestling like, God, what do you have for me? What are you going to do through me? And like, who am I? And it's actually really cool because that like wrestle, I remember I did this YouTube video and it was my first YouTube video ever. It was like 10 years ago, over 10 years. No, it was 10 years ago now. If you went back and watched it, it's hilarious because I'm so country and I'm like, it's very embarrassing. Yeah. But that was the first time. Wait, what was the video? Okay, so it was actually called Live Original. Okay. It was my first YouTube video. Wow. I thought fitting. And it's like Live Original and Just Be You or something like that. Yeah. And I didn't have YouTube at the time, but what I did was like I did this video in front of my camera on it was actually iMovie on my laptop. Yeah. And anyways, it was 3, 2, 1, curtains rolled back. Here I am talking. I just got out of the shower, no makeup on, hair's wet. And I basically started talking about how like all these people see me, but like that's actually not who I am kind of thing. And I talked about when God chose David, like man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord's like the heart. And I actually want people to know my heart. It was just like a really vulnerable kind of like talk. And at the time, that's when everyone was saying like, goals, this, your goals, eyebrow goals, whatever it was. And I was just like, I feel like people think I have reasons to be confident, but I don't actually feel confident. And I'm actually really insecure. I just kind of like share my heart. Well, my sister helped me like start a YouTube channel that night, and she posted it for me. And it got a lot of views really fast. And like Good Morning America called and wanted me to come on to talk about why I did that.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I felt like I was like, I actually want people to know me.
Yeah.
And it came out of like the messiness. But then that opened the door for me to also share like the beauty. And so then my YouTube channel was how I started sharing messages. And like, they weren't messages like I'm doing now. It was like 10 minutes on modesty or 10 minutes on what it means to be a Christian or just like random stuff. And one thing led to another, and now I'm doing what I'm doing. But that was like the start of like paving the path. And so, yeah, that's what I mean by Dancing with the Stars was an opportunity for that, but it wasn't the time yet. And maybe your pop album idea was kind of the opportunity for that. But then it was like, actually, skirt, like we're going to go this way. That was kind of me.
The pop album was my Dancing with the Stars.
It kind of was, because like the thing is, after Dancing with the Stars, all these opportunities open in a very different context. It was like movies and acting and all this stuff, and it just didn't feel right. Like it was cool because I felt like, okay, God, you're opening these doors. Clearly you're going to do something with my life. But I don't have a peace about that because that's not what I was made for. It's a very similar thing that happened
really
to you.
Because
I was in these rooms that it felt crazy to say no to. Like it felt crazy, but it was like, I don't feel right about it. And I don't have any backup option right now, but that's a no, And so then
on paper, it looks so good.
Yeah. And you're like, yeah, feels really crazy. And I remember I just signed with agents and they said, if you say no to this, no one will ever take you seriously. Like, you're not gonna, like, we don't even know. Like, literally, they were like, we're not gonna keep letting you into these rooms if you're gonna say no to things like this. Because this is what you say yes to. And I was like, okay, then it's just gonna have to be a no because that's not it. But that's scary, because.
Did you feel like, were you questioning yourself at that time? Like, wait, or did you just know?
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, there's kind of both. There was a part of me that just knew no, but there was a big question mark to like, okay, what if I say no to this and what do you have for me? That's what felt scary.
Yeah,
because I never thought about ministry being something I was going to go into.
Yeah.
So there wasn't like a backup. Oh, but I'm going to do ministry. Yeah. That wasn't even a thought yet. It was like, if I say no to this, then do I just go back to high school and like just be like, okay, that was a weird time in my life, and then go to college and throw javelin, which is what I was doing before, which is funny because we both had the track thing. I'll just, no, that didn't feel right either. Neither one of them felt like right, but I didn't know what. And so during that time of praying is actually whenever I saw a woman preach for the first time at a summer camp. And it gave me vision for what my life could look like. I was like, I could do that. And that's what felt like my giftings. Like, I was like, I actually could do that. Like, God, you put something in me that has the ability to do that. And if I did that, it would make everything about my platform begin to make sense.
Wow.
So it's just really cool. And I think, God's doing that in your life too, where it's like, I want to do this and maybe it hasn't been done before. Maybe it's different, but this is what makes sense. And it's so cool how like, then God just starts putting all the pieces together. It's like aligning the right people. Everything just feels natural and stuff. But there is that wrestle. But I think that's where like your faith really begins to grow, because it's like, faith is confidence in the things you hope for, and assurance in the things you cannot see, which is a verse that's like really fun to quote, really hard to live by. It's like, oh, okay, confidence in the things I can't see, like, and the things I just hope for. And so when you're in those moments where like you really can't see what's next, that's whenever like you really have to lean into faith and just trust that if you don't have a peace, and if it's a no for a reason. And a no for the world is like a yes towards God, and He'll direct the path. But
wow,
I also, one of my favorite things in my podcast interviews is whenever people start interviewing me, I'm like, I love this.
Yeah, it's good.
Because it's rare. But I think that's the beauty of in-person interviews opposed to like virtual interviews. Because when you're virtual, like you feel like, okay, I'm sitting here, I'm doing an interview, I'm being interviewed.
Yes.
But when you're sitting on a couch with someone, it's like so conversational.
Oh yeah, I forgot we were even recording.
I know. Well, that's why when I asked you, I'm like, oh, sorry, I asked you such a personal question about like, do you feel like your identity was in the box? But that's the beauty of conversation.
Completely.
And so, no, I think, it's really cool. Do you think, like you said, you'll do a pop? Maybe you'll do a pop.
Yeah.
Do you think some of those songs you wrote in the 2.5 years will be used later?
Yes, I think so.
See, that's so cool. God doesn't waste a thing about it.
No, and I think it will make more sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think I hope that it does. I kind of am really just open at this stage right now. I feel like like we said before, like I had these meticulous plans. I'd moved all these things that felt like, oh my gosh, I can do this. I can check this box, done, easy. And I think seeing God kind of just shift that so quickly has made me just be way more open-handed. Because I'm like, oh, that could happen.
Yeah.
That could happen again. God could redirect me, or things could change. My life could, I don't want to be holding things so tightly. So even with that, it's like, I say yes because I'm like, I want to put those songs out. And I'm sure I will, but I don't know when or how. And like, I just, whatever.
Well, I think it's so cool too, because like, I think for me, even with Dance with the Stars, which I'm like, oh, I don't dance anymore. But actually like on social media, one of my like, when I post dance videos, they get like some of my most views. And I'm like, that is so funny because I'm saying something way more important here, but at least it's fun. But actually people always say to me like, I love that you're this Christian who like loves the Lord and like you really do. And you're convicted and all things and you're preaching, but then like you're also just like having fun and being a normal human and dancing to like the latest TikTok trend.
100%.
And I think that that's the beauty of like, you're saying it would be out of context, because if it was your first album and it's like all pop, it'd be like, okay, he's done with worship. But if it's like your first album and it's like the heart of worship, because this is what you're made for, and then you're like, no, but I also am like, I like pop too. And I'm actually good at that. And we can make some awesome pop music that's like just fun and speaks to just like joy and happiness and makes you dance and laugh and all those things. And so I think, as Christians, we should be like well-rounded in that. Like God made us to worship, but he also like created us so unique with like all these aspects of our life. And you don't have to like ditch the other side of things, like dancing or laughing or having fun, just being goofy. And I've got some like criticism for that too, but mostly appreciation. Friends, there are a lot of crazy challenges out there, but I want to invite you to a challenge that could actually change the world. And I am not being dramatic. You can join the scripture translation movement with Illumination's 12-verse challenge, and it actually could change the world. There are over 3,000 people groups, over 1 billion people who don't have access to scripture in their native language, and more than 1,000 people groups don't have access to any scripture at all, which is really mind-blowing to think about. Illuminations is an alliance of 11 leading agencies and Bible translations working together to solve Bible poverty in our generation. What was projected to take over 150 years to complete can now be finished by 2033 with your help. So we are partnering with Illuminations for the 12-verse challenge. For $35 a month, you can help fund 12 verses of scripture a year for people with no access to the Bible. Our goal as a Whoa, That's Good family is to fund the equivalent of all 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, for a people group that doesn't have the word in their language. And if we stick together, it won't stop there. There's so many problems around the world that people are facing, and we might not be able to change everything about their circumstances, but we can give them hope and we can give them the good news of what's to come. And I believe we can do that through translating scripture and giving them access to it. So friends, let's rally together and do this. I've had the opportunity to be a part of this at several conferences, but how cool that we get to do this as a podcast family. Like, this is so unique and so amazing. So let's be a part of doing something incredible as a podcast family. So how do you join this movement? Well, pull out your phone right now, click the link in the show notes, or go to 12vc.com/sister and commit to the 12-verse challenge. That's the number 1, the number 2, vc.com/sister. We're all in this until everyone everywhere has access to God's word, and I believe together we can make it happen. So visit the number 12vc.com/sister to join the movement today.
No, but it is interesting. Like, I think that was a lot of like what I've been thinking about the last couple of years is like, as Christians, sometimes we have this tendency to like be really extreme with things like you said, like, oh, I can't post it dancing on TikTok because I'm a preacher or I'm a singer. Like, I can't, like, I feel like we're like, I don't know, like I think
that sets people up to not relate to Christianity though, because then it's like, oh, okay, then I can't be human. No, you are human. God made you human in the image of him. And so I think when people see someone like preaching and then doing the latest TikTok trend and not conforming. You're not conforming to the pattern of the world. You're not just like throwing away your conviction and doing like there's obviously a limit to that. Like you didn't see me do certain TikTok trends. But like there are some that's just
the box step.
Fun.
That's fine.
Yeah, I know. It's just like the fun stuff of life, the joy in life. And you look at, the Bible and like the people in the Bible, they're so human, and Jesus sat with them and loved them and appreciated them. And I always used to think like, it's so annoying that, not annoying because the word of God is holy and perfect and wonderful. But I was like, I wish there was something about them being like funny in there, I wish there's like some fun. But then I remember one time a pastor told me, he's like, oh, you don't think God's fun? God made you. Like, you're fun. Like, of course they were fun. Yeah. Like, you don't see that because maybe they just didn't write it in that. But you did see like them hanging out on the boat, fishing together, like having meals together, having a glass of wine together, like celebrating together. So yes, that's there. Just don't miss it. Like they were fully
12
human.
guys hanging out, like that's never not funny.
It's never not fun.
No, they're having so much fun. Like, you know what I mean? But yeah, okay. That's definitely been something I've thought about because I don't want to ever be that way. Like you can't relate. But yeah.
Gives people the freedom to fully be themselves and fully love God, which I think so much of this conversation keeps coming back to. Like fully being who God made you to be and fully loving him in the context of that and honoring him, respecting and all the different things. So anyways. I
have one more question for you, just really quick. Just when you were, so you did that video on YouTube, right? And then it got you onto Good Morning America. Was that the first time that you felt like you had truly been, like the people were seeing who you truly were? So it was like this one moment of like courage or vulnerability that like then set you on a path.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It felt like the most honest I had been with the world. It felt like for me, I was just getting rid of the filter I put on myself. I felt, to be honest, I felt like a hypocrite during that time because I felt like all of a sudden people kind of put me as this like poster child of Christianity because my family is Christians and I was the daughter who was respectful to my parents and loved Jesus. And I did. Yeah. But I was also not living a great life at the time. I was like very much so a 16-year-old girl, 17-year-old girl. And as much as I wished I was the person people put me on the pedestal to be, I just didn't feel like I was. And that bothered me so much. Like that ate me up. And I felt like I just wanted people to know like, that's actually not me. Like I do love God, but I'm like not perfect and I'm really struggling. And I mean, cause at the time, like I remember at that time, like I said, opportunities were opening in different spaces. So I was doing like modeling and stuff like this. People were seeing me on New York, like walk the, runway at Fashion Week and I was just like, but I'm so insecure. Like I actually really struggle with like my image and my body. And then also like my relationships were not good and I didn't have friends at the time because everyone thought I had changed and I don't think I did a good enough job showing them that I hadn't. And like, so I just felt like I need people to know this. I need everybody to know this because I'm not going to like fake it. And then actually being so honest was like, it just like broke the ice for me to just like stay honest and stay in that vein. And that's what people related to the most. And I think that like I saw other people be famous and do it in a way that was filtered and it worked. And I couldn't keep up with it. I was like, I don't actually want to be that famous person. I actually want to be a sister and a friend to those who don't have one. And I want to act like a sister and a friend. So I need to take my makeup off and tell people how I really feel because this feels like I'm a fraud, you know? And then I got to like be me. And that's the whole message of Live Original. It's like, you got to live your message first, you know? And it's hard to, it's a little bit easier to talk about than to do. But actually, even though I say that it's hard to be vulnerable, it's the most freeing thing I did for myself. It was the best gift I gave myself because I didn't have to like keep up with an image that I wasn't.
Completely. Yeah. I mean, when you said that, it made me think of us on the plane flying here with my friend Fraser. And I was asking him how he got engaged. And he was saying like, there's a quote from We Bought a Zoo. It was like 30 seconds of courage can change everything. Is that right? Yeah, 30 seconds of courage can change everything. And he was like, he told himself that like before he like went and met his, I think he was either meeting, he's over there, but he was either going up to talk to her for the first time, or he's getting engaged. He looks in the mirror, he's like, just 30 seconds of courage. And like, it's interesting what that can do. Like because it's really nerve-wracking to be vulnerable, like to put yourself out there, to be who you really are. Particularly when people put things on you. I can't imagine for you, it's like you've got like people who watch you on TV or whatever, and they think this is who you are, or whatever you've done, Dancing with the Stars, all these things. And you like to take all those things off and show who you really are is really nerve-wracking. But I guess what I read from that is like, or heard from that is like, it literally set your whole life up.
Oh, it set my whole life up. Like literally, I would not be doing this podcast if I did not make that video. Like, because I would not have been in that direction. I wouldn't even be in that mindset. Like, this requires vulnerability. And I think that truly the most freeing thing you can do for yourself is to just come clean. Because if my mom always said this, like when Duck Dynasty started, she said, if you have a secret, you be the one to tell it, because they're going to find out about it and somebody will tell it unless you tell it. So just like, you be the one to tell it. And I remember like, okay, like hearing it, but then later on, as like our fame grew, as like the TV show grew and stuff like that, understanding really what that meant. And actually, that was one of the reasons why I did want to start a podcast, because I felt like I was constantly doing these interviews and then they would be condensed to this clickbait title. And then people would be like, oh, that's what she has going on in her life, or that's who she is. And I'm like, no, I want to be able to like tell my story. And YouTube was a great way for that. Podcasting was a great way for that. It's like, I don't want to be in like the box of what people think. I would rather just tell them what's actually happening. And even if it's worse than what people think, I'd rather be the one to tell them what's actually happening. But it's so freeing to live in the light. Like it's so freeing. And it's actually so funny that you say that about that quote, because I had heard a similar quote 8th grade at a Bible study my cousin was leading. And she said, 5 seconds of awkward can save you from a lifetime of regret. And I wrote it in my first book. I say it all the time. Well, 5 seconds. Sometimes it takes 30 seconds, honestly. Sometimes it's a little longer than 5. But it is at that 5 second, because it really can lead to a lifetime of going, if I only would have just come clean. And so when I think about it at 17, I'm like, man, thank God I did that for myself, because I set myself up to just be me. And it, it's messier than the image of the filtered image and the this and the that, but it's what people need. People, when you are fully living who you are, it gives people the freedom to live fully who they are. And completely, what a gift to give your friends and the people around you and the people that follow you, and to not have another person on their feed that they say, I could never look like that, I could never be like that, I could never measure up to that, but to go, that girl looks a lot like me, she talks a lot like me, she relates to me. And I just think it's cool. But anyways, now you're interviewing me fully. And I need to get back to interviewing. Well, aren't you going to start a podcast, or did you start a podcast? We started one,
but we only did, I think, 4 episodes.
What?
We're going to start it again. We're going to start it again.
Okay, you need to circle back to that. It is hard work.
Like, I don't know how you do it. I'm looking around, this place is amazing, but I'm like, it's a lot of work.
Okay, but I started there. You're looking around here. Just remember, half my first season was recorded like in my Jeep, in a closet, and I I was literally, should we go buy a microphone from Best Buy today? So, everyone starts from the bottom.
That's where we are right now.
You got to work your way up. Yeah. But don't stop, because you're an incredible interviewer.
Really? Okay, great.
Oh my gosh,
I didn't come here to interview. And it just came out of me though.
But as long as you feel like well respected in the fact that I interviewed you and people heard your story, then I appreciate that you interviewed me as well. Yeah. Well, okay, you didn't tell us what the album's called, but will you tell everybody when it comes out?
I mean, wait, this is, okay. No, I shouldn't. Okay. It comes out on October 18th.
You're like, is this my 5 seconds of awkward that saves you from a lifetime of regret? Okay, no, but it comes out October 18th?
Yep.
Okay, everybody, this album comes out October 18th. You do not want to miss this. We've got to hear the first single, which is absolutely amazing, and there's so much more to come. But Aiden, seriously, thank you for coming to Louisiana, being on the podcast, and thank you for also interviewing me back, because I actually really appreciate it.
Of course, I love it. Thanks for having me.